Do liberal parents ever raise a conservative kid? My parents were fairly liberal in the typical sense, but also conservative in the social sense. There's 8 of us kids. One became career militiary and is convinced that liberals are using universities to push a gay agenda in order to take down the Catholic Church. He's forever single. One might even say incelibate. Or he may just be a gay homophobe. I don't know. One became a Peace Corps volunteer and spent years volunteering as a teacher in Belize and is always heavily leaning left. One became a Catholic school teacher. Leans heavily right due to religious reasons. Her identical twin was a homeschooler who used to lean left but recently went way off the right end of things and has since been the butt of jokes, and nobody, not even our mother, will speak to her because everyone fears her antics. One became a public school teacher. Leans largely left. One became a private school teacher, but also spent years as a volunteer in Haiti. I honestly haven't a damn clue where she leans. She's incredibly conservative socially, but she often acts more like a liberal. IDK. One has had mental issues. And I think she's kinda like my parents. Socially conservative, but otherwise a liberal. And one is a liberal and proud of it. We have a blacklist of topics at family gatherings. They mostly entail gay marriage, purgatory, women in the Catholic Church. A few other things are off the table. Very few of us agree on anything. So I have no idea if that answers your question. But yeah, parents ain't like their kids here. Family Ties isn't streaming anywhere, huh? My BFS friend has a big Trump flag on his wall for years to spite his liberal dad. Mike Pence grew up in a Democratic household and became a Republican. My son has much more conservative views than my husband and I. I try to avoid talking about politics because it always starts a fight and makes me feel a lot of resentment towards him. Also, my nephew is much more conservative and religious than his atheist parents. My brother and his wife. Maybe the conservative gene skips a generation or something. So, yeah, that's 2 examples. Liz Truss? I know her parents are Lib Dems, but she was briefly leader of the Conservative Party. My parents' hippiest of the hippies, friend's daughter went straight into the military after high school. I think it's because she craved discipline after living with too much ambivalence. My friend we used to call granola. Don't worry. He liked bring called granola. Went from Hakisik to joining the Navy. It could mean a few things. These friends of mine served their country proudly. But was it a response to left-leaning parents? Or did these left-leaning parents raise patriotic children? Susan Rice https National.Interest.org blog 2020 election. Susan Rice address Esher Trump supporting son and candidacy VP 166,406. The most disastrous turn away from his liberal parents was Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. Both his parents were extremely liberal. Well, for 19th-century nobles. But although he was small and suffered from a birth defect that gave him a withered arm, he embraced crazy militarism as cool. Worse, his dad died of throat cancer after less than a year on the throne. He came to power, dismissed Bismarck, and flipped the bird at his British relatives by starting his naval build-up. This basically ensured the next war would be a world war. And there is no doubt that the start of World War I was the most radical shift in world history ever. There was a different route without Hitler, Stalin, and Mao. Europe had gone 100 years without a major war, and there really was no reason why a dispute between the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Serbia over the assassination of an archduke had to become a world war, except that Kaiser Bill was not brave enough to stop it. He was petrified of losing face and unable to stand up to the generals he worshipped. But, and this is strange, read this carefully, I doubt anyone reading the post would be here today without Kaiser Bill. Why? Because the two world wars led to such vast demographic shifts that everyone's DNA got mixed far differently than it would have without the war. Either your great-grandparents met because of the war, or the guy your grandma really loved died on Omaha Beach, or your granddad couldn't get into the military because of flat feet and moved to Seattle to make $5 a day working for Boeing. Or someone was a refugee, or any of millions of other little changes that shifted how human DNA was mixed up. Even in the areas that did not see active combat, it had a huge impact. Because there was a huge economic boom across Africa and Latin America because of the war that led to both the start of the modern population explosion and lots of people moving to the cities for jobs in factories that were somehow providing items for export to the nations actively at war. And this is not even getting into the issues of that resulted from the rise of the USSR, decolonization, and the vast technological changes the war fostered. There is a pretty good chance that today's airliners would not be much further along than the DC-3. And we certainly would have never gone to the moon and might not even have penicillin without Kaiser Bill's rejection of his liberal parents' deeply held beliefs. Ned Flanders' parents are beatniks lol. Yes, I know a lot of people with very liberal parents who are now some of the most conservative people you'll meet. Yes. See Candace Owens and Amala Ekpunobi. Both have said they were raised liberal and became conservatives in adulthood. People's identities can shift a lot as they grow up. Parents only have so much influence. What? Nobody remembers that old sitcom Family Ties, in which Michael J. Fox wears a suit and scandalizes his hippie parents. Sure they do. I remember watching a video by a now liberal about how he fell down the conservative pipeline. Part of it was many arguments with his far-left single mother. He said they had many issues and he attributed that to all leftists. To some extent to all women. He did some introspection and grew out of that eventually though. Yes, some kids just take the opposite position of their parents. Well, because they're kids and they just do it. I like the Family Ties reference. But this is very common. So are marriages such as Mary Madeline and James Carville. Yes, me. Parents and rest of the family are liberals. I'm an independent. My family are the one-party type who believe that everything bad in society is due to conservatives. And if we just all became die-hard liberals, then all problems on earth would be solved. I believed them for a long time. Long story short, I moved to a liberal-run, one-party region as an adult and realized it's terribly managed, horribly corrupt, and everyone's forgotten how to use their brain to the detriment of all the good they're trying to do. Only now there's no one to blame but ourselves. I used to want to be around people who agree with me. But now I think you need some healthy disagreement to keep people's brains from melting. Most of the family don't understand, but there are a lot of things we do agree on. So it's still easy to find common ground and get along. Yes, source, me. I know one. A high school kid converted from the religion he was raised. They didn't actually practice to fundamentalist Christian and became a Trump supporter. He would do things like change their fridge screen to MAGA mantras that historically would have provided vague threats towards their family. For context, he was not doing well in high school and was about to graduate with a bit loss at what to do afterwards. In a family that had been very successful and ambitious in all areas including academics and career paths they had set their minds to early on. In his immediate family and throughout his extended family, It was treated with compassion like he was suffering a mental break that he needed to be supported through. I was the partner of a cousin and was given protocols and directions that were supportive to me on how to respond if anything should come up when I attended a family event. Based on a few things, I assumed these instructions were provided by a mental health expert. Here, I had liberal progressives on both sides of my family, even though they're all Catholic. Hindsight, it's strange, but I understand the progression now that I'm older. I was of the same thinking, even during some of college. However, I started questioning some of their beliefs. Mostly, it was dichotomy. Why were they staying with their supposedly Catholic faith while espousing beliefs contrary to it? They really weren't. As I found out, they were what we call C&E Christians. Christmas and Easter. It makes them feel good or nostalgic when they attend at those times. And in their warped sense of religion or faith, God will be more lenient on them if they attend services sometimes. I started exploring Christianity, as well as other faiths for comparison. Found truth in the gospel of Jesus, as well as the Bible as a whole, Old and New Testament. If you're going to downvote me for my honest response to this question, I prefer you ask a question instead. I'll gladly answer, but it may take a few hours as I'll be at work.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.